I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for July 12th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone, and happy National Parks and Rec Month. The City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires we make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide the opportunity for the general public to participate to the best of our ability. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using a Zoom platform. The council members and staff will be in person in our council chambers, as well as those citizens that wish to attend in person. The Zoom access instructions can be found on the meeting agenda. Public comment requests were accepted prior to noon today and were to include your topic and phone number. And because hybrid meetings are challenging, please be patient. Tonight, we will begin with a Clackamas Fire District number 1 update. This will be followed by the consent agenda, which includes approval of the June 14th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, approval of the May bank balances, budget report for periods ending May 31st, 2022, approval of the May check register, legal costs on projects, department head monthly reports for June 2022, and to consider approval of a contract for the 2022 Gladstone Street Pavement Repair Project to K&L Industries in the amount of $654,552. Our regular meeting agenda includes item number 8, which is a public hearing for ordinance 1210, a resolution updating the master fee schedule. Item number 9, which is amendment to the Library Construction and Operations Intergovernmental Agreement, referred to as an IGA. Item 10 is the Gladstone Police Department body-worn camera discussion. 11 is the psilocybin regulations in Gladstone. And item 12 is appointment to the Traffic Safety Commission. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Councillor Ripley.
Yes.
Councillor Alexander.
Yes.
Councillor Tracy.
Present.
Councillor Hartman.
Here.
Councillor Todd.
Here.
Councillor Garlington.
Here.
Mayor Stemple.
Here. Could everyone please stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any agenda additions or corrections?
I have none, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, so the first item is the consent agenda. Do we have any concerns or questions? I'll start with Councillor Ripley.
No.
Councillor Alexander.
I have none. Thank you.
Councillor Tracy.
None, thank you.
Councillor Hartman.
None.
Councillor Tracy. Todd.
None.
Excuse me, that's right. I'm writing Tracy. Well, Councillor Garlington.
None.
And I have none. So I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councillor Tracy and seconded in tandem by Councillors Alexander and Councillor Hartman. Any further discussion? I don't see any. Could you do a roll call vote, please?
Councillor Alexander.
Yes.
Councillor Tracy.
Aye.
Councillor Hartman.
Aye.
Councillor Todd.
Yes.
Councillor Garlington.
Yes.
Councillor Ripley.
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, consent agenda has been approved. Do we have any correspondence?
No, but I do think we'll go ahead and have our fire department report from
Oh,
Clackamas
I'm sorry.
Fire.
Yes, please. Go ahead. I was going to do that next.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in front of you this evening. We're just a month into our full service agreement, and it's been a busy month, as you can imagine. A few things I wanted to touch on. The crew was hoping to be here. Captain Bauer is going to make it a point whenever he's on duty to try to make it by. You may have seen him step into the building and then the tones go off. So that's what they do, and they do so well, as Councillor Ripley knows from his time serving. It's just the way the crews work. So the transition's been going well, very well. Some of the things that need to be completed in the IGA we got accomplished in June on schedule. That included doing the inventory, which was reconciled between us and the city of Gladstone. So that is going to be kind of a living document because some of the materials will be coming back and forth. We have a few radios that we identified that will be excess for Clackamas. So we're going to return those to Gladstone, so those can be put to use by the taxpayers in the city of Gladstone. So that's a positive piece there. And then certainly with the remodel, there's going to be a number of items that will need to shift between some times. And with that, and as you may already be aware, the remodel has been postponed or is just starting, and it's getting underway, but it's been later than we expected. So we are going to be occupying the old fire office across the street as kind of the day classroom eating area for the crews, and then they will continue to live in the apartment through the period of the remodel. But it's been great working with your teams. The city manager has been kind enough to invite me to participate with her management team on the first Tuesdays of the month. So it's been good for me to learn more about the city of Gladstone, the processes going on there. And it's been helpful for the interoperability and coordination between us and other departments, especially like IT and law enforcement. So that's been very positive. In terms of other aspects, some of the things that the crew was going to talk on, we mentioned in the fire chief's report, the written report, but there were some other events that they wanted to capture. There was a barbecue. They had attended an event at the Gladstone Center for Children and Families, those types of things that they were more intimate and prepared to speak on. Certainly know that we are interested in serving and enjoying their time here. I had a great time with the two folks over here and got to see Mayor Stemple at the 4th of July barbecue. So that was a lot of fun. It was good to be part of that kind of hometown feel that you folks have garnered and grow here in Gladstone. A couple other big items for us and just in terms of the season. Clackamas Fire received a $35,000 grant from the State Fire Marshal's Office for wildfire staffing. And what that really does for us is it allows us to upstaff additional personnel on red flag days or extreme fire danger days, just to make sure that we have a little bit more preparedness for events that may occur in the local area. And then another piece, and I'll send the resources to City Administrator Betts, but I'll send her two links. One is for the statewide wildland urban interface map. While we are pretty fortunate in the area that we live in and the fact that it's been wet, although that'll dry out quickly. It's a map that you may want to get familiar with and see what is going on within your local area as well as the state, or you may have loved ones who live elsewhere that it may be a useful tool for them. And then the second one just got announced through a press release yesterday through the Western Fire Chiefs Association. And I'm particularly interested in it. It's like a weather app. A lot of fire information comes from one source. The Western Fire Chiefs Association fire map actually incorporates a number of sources. So there'll be more up-to-date or accurate information that is a little more timely, because the big piece that they're drawing into it is pulse point, which I hope you folks are following us on that, and other organizations. So it's interesting that it incorporates those several pieces. So folks here, your residents can have one source of information, at least that's what I perceive it to be, rather than trying to track down a few things. Oh, wait, I heard about this fire, but it's not on the national fire map because it's not big enough and it hasn't been updated. But if that agency participates in Pulse Point, it will be captured. So those are a few of the highlights, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Ripley, any question?
I don't have any questions.
Councillor Alexander?
I was just wondering, you said when you worked with Gladstone on the inventory,
Mhm.
so is there like a list of everything and where it went and who has it now? And
Yeah, we have an inventory. We kept it in Excel. I mean, under various tabs based on apparatus or location of the station or the office building or the apartment. And it's categorized by location of where it was first identified or located, what that item is. And then we've tracked it to where its current residence is, whether it's in our logistics area. Some things went to your public storage facility that we don't need, but we know that it went to there for City of Gladstone to repurpose or surplus, or however you may decide to do those. Yeah, I can't remember how many line items, 1,000.
some things went to other
Some
cities and so forth and fire districts.
So we haven't taken anything to other cities or fire districts. So anything that we identified that we would not need as Clackamas Fire,
Okay.
we set aside as property and use of Gladstone. And again, those would be items that we would think that the city of Gladstone will approach and surplus. One such example would be some of the turnouts that are no longer fire rated because they're out of age, may be perfectly good for the community college was one thing that had come up as an example. So Chemeketa Community College could use those for training. We in Clackamas use old turnouts for academy training because they get torn up and they're expensive. And so things like that.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Tracy.
So I'm curious of your mention of the $35,000 grant. So what, you're looking at obviously upstaffing on red flag days. What does that really buy you? Just out of curiosity. It just seems like a low number, but I think we're talking one or two. Is that?
It is a fairly low number. I mean, it will go by quickly. So typically on red flag days, we will staff 1 or 2 like brush units. So that's 2 or 4 people, and we typically only staff for daytime hours. I mean, we don't typically hold those personnel overnight. So I would look into the neighborhood of, if we just talked about a 2-person brush rig, we're talking really about 70 of those units spread over, 1 or 2 a day. So it's a significant increase to what we've been able to afford. Certainly that changes based on weather, and we may upstaff 2 type 2s and 2 types 3s, which is a total of 10 personnel that day or something. So those numbers will draw down. But the nice thing is that it is available.
Are these folks that are in reserve? Or are they in your pay, your volunteers?
So the way that the grant was funded is for additional career staffing. So it would be overtime for us.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Counselor Hartman.
Just 2 questions, just out of curiosity. If there are no red flag days, fingers crossed, what happens to the 35,000?
That's a great question. So whether there's 35,000 left or 32,000 left or $2,000 left, whatever funds remain, we have to and will notify the state about what that quantity is. They have the option of requesting those funds back. They also have the option of repurposing those funds or extending the timeline for those funds.
Sure, awesome. And then curious about this new app you were talking about. Is it Pulse Point, or is Pulse Point just one of the information feeders?
Pulse Point is one of the information features
Okay.
for the WFCA. And if I said app, I spoke incorrectly. Currently, it's just.
I got
a website.
excited.
Currently, it's just a website.
A website,
I'm sure
okay.
the app will be coming because
And-
it's just what seems to happen.
Right. And the website is for the public to use? Is
Yes,
that what I'm
absolutely.
understanding? Oh,
Yep.
okay, awesome.
And
And
I will get the link over to City Administrator Betts for you.
perfect, that was my next question. Thank you.
Counselor Todd.
Well, Counselor Hartman asked all my questions. I did see on some social media posts that you are currently hiring. Is that right? Or volunteers is what you're looking for as well.
So I think the most recent social media post that I saw was probably for our Crew 30, our Wildland crew.
Okay.
And that is actually a partnership with Clackamas Community College and WorkSource Oregon. It's a federally funded program from firefighter or the forest fire recovery piece. So we are looking for that. As you can imagine, we have young folks who are busy doing things and they get opportunities and they want to pursue those. So we want to make sure that that roster is full and we're able to keep that staffed. We're always taking applications for volunteers. I think we're in the process of processing those now. So if it's open, I don't think it would be for this next academy.
Okay.
But we're always accepting applications for those. And then we do have a couple other positions open, but not entry-level positions. We have a training captain and an EMS captain position.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Garlington.
My questions got asked, so thank you, everyone.
I have one question. So
Certainly.
we're talking about wildland fire, and we've spent a lot of time in the last year and a half trying to get prepared for the next onslaught of wildland fires. What are you thinking as far as our risk for this summer, for this season?
Oh, that's always challenging. So
If it rains too much, then it's going to be a bad fire season. If it doesn't rain at all, it's going to be a bad fire season. So there's got to be some science behind that.
yeah, I mean, if you'd allow me, I could tell you in November.
All right. I like that.
It's always difficult. Certainly, we are just starting to track significant fire dangers across the state. I'm on one of the incident management teams, and we just had our briefing today because I just started being on call. There are red flag days in Southern Oregon. But to your question about like too much rain, too little rain, it's really about the time since the last rain is probably a simple place to put it. So if you kind of track, 3 or 4 weeks past that last good rain is where I would really start to watch stuff. So we've been wet for a little bit, but the fire danger will come.
So the people that we have with Clackamas Fire, they stay locally, or do we send them out? For instance, a friend of mine's son, he just started at Eastern Oregon in the Wildland Fire Program.
Mhm.
Didn't even go to class yet, and they sent him to Arizona. And he's been there 3 cycles
Okay, yeah.
so far. And so the whole class went to Arizona, New Mexico. But that's not what we're going to do.
So the system of mutual aid in Oregon is complex, to say the least. So for us in Clackamas Fire, we typically staff with full-time career personnel. We have 2 stations that are volunteer. And those are typically just nights and some weekends. But so for the occasions where there's fire requests across the state, we will, as part of the county, see what services we have available. And that's based on what our current fire behavior is, what our current fire threat is, the current status of our personnel, and the current status of our apparatus. Typically, Clackamas Fire is able to participate in a couple of task forces at a time. And so a task force is really 5 units and a commander, so a strike or a task force leader. So those units typically consist of a water tender, 2 type 6 engines, which are like the small brush trucks, and then 2 type 3s or type 1s. Type 1s are what engine 322 is, the big engines, and type 3s are kind of a larger wildland interface rig. So we're typically able to support a couple of those rigs on 2 task forces at a time. That's kind of our benchmark of what we will send out.
But those task forces aren't just Clackamas, aren't they?
No, that would be, so task forces are generally compiled by county.
Okay,
So that would be us, Canby, Hoodland, Estacada, Molalla.
so it doesn't deplete our resources. And that's why I'm asking this
Yeah.
question, because we were hit really hard last year and I want to make sure that we're not depleted.
Yeah, it's a fair concern. And so what we do in Clackamas, and I can't speak to Hoodland or Canby, but in Clackamas, we will send on-duty crews, because usually there's a sense of urgency about getting to a fire, because the goal is to keep them small, keep the risk low for both the homeowners, property owners, and the firefighters responding. But we will backfill those personnel with additional career folks. So the staffing within the city or within the cities and unincorporated area that we serve really stays consistent. But we send other folks outside to assist.
Okay, well, that was the only question I have. Anything else? No, I think that's it. Do you have any questions for us?
I do not, just happy to have the opportunity to be here.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much. All right, and then we start our public hearing. So as I do before every meeting, I'd like to say a few words regarding the city council. The most important limitation we have sitting here is that we are representing the citizens of Gladstone, not our own personal agendas and beliefs. There have been many times when a decision being made doesn't align with what we would like personally, but have made a decision based on what is best for the city as a whole. That doesn't mean our personal beliefs have changed, just that the city's needs were more important. As we discuss and consider matters, there are laws and rules we have to use as the basis of our decisions. These start at the federal and state level, then filter down to our city's comprehensive plan, city charter, codes, and ordinances. We do not have the luxury of randomly making decisions, but instead have to be consistent and take a path that is defensible. So first we start with regular agenda item number 8, which is consider approving resolution 1210, updating the master fee schedule to include pass-through increases for water environmental services, Oak Lodge Water Services, and North Clackamas County Water Commission, referred to as NCCWC, and system development charges, referred to as SDCs, and updated low-income utility assistance programs. And I want to stress that this is pass-through increases. Staff.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Typically, you revisit your master fee schedule twice a year, once in July and once in December. And tonight, yes, you will be updating pass-through charges. We have our finance consultant, Kathy Brucker, on Zoom tonight, who's going to walk you through the staff report.
Good evening. Thank you very much. As Jackie was saying, this is the January, excuse me, I'm sorry, the July 1st increase that we're going to be having, where we do look at these increases usually twice a year. This one, first off, will deal with the annual increases to our pass-through billings from the following providers. Oak Lodge Water Service is increasing by 6.81% to $58.36 per month. That is for sewer treatment. Also for sewer treatment is the Water Environment Services fee, which will increase by 4.89% to $27.90 a month. And then NCCWC is increasing by 3.42% to 0.79 cents per 100 cubic feet of water. These increases are calculated by each entity. And again, as known, they're a straight pass through to our customers. Second, our SDC charges are annually adjusted. And these increases are based on the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index for Seattle. And the year-over-year increase as of December 2021 was 6.6%. This index was adopted in each methodology as the accepted standard. And it is also the percent of increase that our surrounding cities are doing also. Finally, our low income levels have been updated to the 2022 Housing and Urban Development Very Low Income Limits for the Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough area as detailed in Exhibit B. So if approved, these rates will go into effect on the July utility billing, which will be processed at the end of this month. That is the end of my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Counselor Ripley,
I don't have any questions.
Counselor Alexander,
None, thank you.
Counselor Tracy,
No questions. Thank you.
Counselor Hartman,
No questions.
Counselor Todd,
No questions.
Counselor Garlington.
No questions.
All right. I don't have any questions, but again, for those listening, these are pass-through increases. This is not us padding our pockets even more. These are pass-through. All right. I would entertain a motion then to approve resolution number 1210.
Just for the record, Mayor,
Oh, public hearing.
public comment. Is there anybody that signed up to speak tonight regarding these increases?
We did not receive any requests to speak tonight.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So then I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1210.
I will make a motion that we approve resolution number 1210, a resolution repealing the master fee schedule adopted under resolution number 1208 and adopting a new master fee schedule.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Counselor Garlington and seconded by Counselor Hartman to approve resolution number 1210. Do we have any further discussion, questions, or concerns? I don't see any. Could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes,
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, so resolution number 1210, repealing the master fee schedule adopted under resolution number 1208 and adopting a new master fee schedule has passed. Thank you. Next is item number 9, which is to consider approval of an amendment to the library construction and operation intergovernmental agreement, IGA, between Clackamas County and the city of Gladstone. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Our city attorney, Ashley Driscoll, is going to take the lead on this item.
Good evening, council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to provide a brief history of this issue and then go through the proposed amendments and then open it up for questions. So we're talking about the first amendment to an IGA entered into in November 2019 between the city of Gladstone and Clackamas County. This IGA was for the construction of a 6,000 square foot library in the city of Gladstone in exchange for the city dismissing a lawsuit regarding this issue and providing the city's library district revenue plus $200,000 per year to Clackamas County. When drafting this IGA and what the county agreed to was a relatively strict timeline for construction. And if that timeline was not met, the city council could agree to impose a series of escalating penalties for noncompliance with the timeline. However, as we all know, the world quickly changed after November 2019, and for reasons largely outside Clackamas County's control, the timeline has been extended, and they have used up all six extensions that we have agreed to in the timeline. They have come back and asked the city to consider a 1-year extension or a pause in the construction timeline in order to try to address some of these issues. Primarily, the original cost for the Gladstone Library was estimated at $4.9 million. Because of the pandemic-related delays and inflationary impacts, the new estimate is somewhere up near $8.6 million. So a substantial increase in what the construction of the library is going to cost. Clackamas County is hoping that within this year pause, some of the pandemic impacts will begin to alleviate. For instance, inflation will begin to correct and supply lines will become more usable. So the county presented this to us a couple months ago. We have engaged in a back and forth with the county and their legal counsel regarding the 12 months pause, and we have met in an executive session to discuss it. So the amendment that we have before you, the city is agreeing to a 12-month pause in the construction timeline. The county is committing to demolishing the former City Hall site by November 1st, 2022, and putting up a sign reading future site of the Gladstone City Library. And the county has also agreed to update its estimate at 9 months from execution of the amendment. And if the cost estimate at that point is $7 million or less, the county will resume the construction timeline. As of note, the County Board of Commissioners considered this amendment, I believe, last week, and it has passed at the county commission level. So although the city would prefer for the county to be able to stay on the agreed upon timeline, the county has been a good partner with us throughout this process, and the city generally understands the reasons for the delay and the escalating costs. So it is our recommendation that the city council approve the amendment. With that, I will turn it over to Jackie, and if Jackie has nothing else to add, questions from the council.
Anything else?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
All right, so questions, concerns, Councilor Ripley.
So giving them in 1 year extension, what prevents them from in a year doing it again and doing it again?
Right, that's a good
It
question.
sounds like both sides can back out of this agreement at any time. So
Right.
that just seems kind of weird. Nobody's going to be held accountable for anything. The only people who are going to be held, this is going to be held against the people who want to use the new library, because anybody can back out at any time. Now we're putting everybody's life on hold for a year. But if there's a way to say that they are going to definitely do it, but I don't trust them. Maybe that's my only thought, is this can't get kicked down the road for years.
Well, Councilor Ripley, I can address some of those concerns. So you're right. In the primary IGA, the construction IGA, there is a termination clause where either party can terminate and pay the price essentially. And in this case, if the county, if the city was to terminate, we would be able to receive $360,000 towards the construction of a new library. But if the county terminated, we would receive $360,000 in order to construct a new library. And, we would still face many of the same challenges that the county is facing now in terms of lining up contractors and subcontractors and dealing with the inflationary costs.
Does that answer your question? All right, Councilor Alexander.
Well, right here, the county will update in 9 months, and then if it's under 7 million or less, the county will resume the construction timeline. So if it's 7.5, 7.1 or more, then they don't resume the timeline and we go into another IGA, or how's that work?
No. So what we put into the amendment is that, if during the course of the year, the correction happens quicker, and at the 9-month mark, they go out and they get a new cost estimate and it shows it's under $7 million, they would immediately begin resuming the timeline. It doesn't mean that if it's above 7.5, they're just not obligated to start sooner. They would still be obligated to start at the 12-month mark.
No matter the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarification on. Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Tracy.
So are we still going forward with the demolition of the city hall on the corner of Portland and Dartmouth? Is that part of the plan?
That is correct. When I spoke to the project manager, he said that the contractors are currently working on demolitions for a couple of school projects. They are lined up though to start late this summer on the demolition of the city hall.
And we're trying to get that pushed up.
So my concern here is that we can end up having another big hole in the middle of our town. I mean, we've got corner of Arlington and Portland. That's not exactly a great vista for anyone. And then having the corner of Portland and Dartmouth, basically leveled with a fence around it, it's really not looking good to me. It looks like the push out here, we go into November, some decisions are made there to possibly pull the construction documents and go for permitting. But then to Randy Ripley's point, and I think Councilor Alexander, if we're not at 7.1 million in November, it seems like that continues to get kicked down, the can gets kicked down the road. Am I wrong about how I'm reading that? Ashley?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I understand exactly what you're asking.
Well, what I see here is November, we would pull the documents, both construction and permit, correct? Does that mean if it's down below the $7.1 million threshold, or does that mean no matter what the cost, we're pulling the documents in November?
So no, so November 1st is the date for that they have to demolish the current city hall site. That's what the November 2021 or 2022 date is. What they're asking is a 12-month pause on constructing the new library. So they would not have to deliver those construction documents, which is, I believe, our number 4, our timeline number 4, until a year from the execution of this IGA, the amendment to the IGA. The only way that could change is that after 9 months after execution of this IGA, they do a cost estimate, and the cost estimate is below 7 million. At that point, the pulling of the permits and getting the construction documents would be expedited.
Okay, I guess my point is, in the meantime, we could have basically an undeveloped piece of property in the middle of town. I just think we all need to acknowledge that in public and on the record.
I think that's
Part of it's environmental. We have some mitigation that needs to be done. So that's going to be lengthy, I believe.
So no
Correct.
matter the duration, we're gonna have the undeveloped piece of property in town.
I think the sooner that they start on the abatement of asbestos process and demolition, because we could run into issues with contaminated soils underneath. So the period of how long it's actually an empty site could work right into when we're getting ready to construct that. And so that is something that you do need to consider, though, that if they demolish by the end of November, it could be sitting there for 9 months until they do construct it. But I do think having activity and moving forward is better than waiting to demolish and find out that we've got all this other work to do that we could have done leading up to the construction.
Well, I appreciate that, but as you know, citizens are gonna see it as just basically an empty lot, no matter what work is going on there. So that's gonna be our forward-facing community engagement that's gonna keep them from potentially being concerned about the empty lot. It'll change that street quite a bit, taking that building out of there.
Well, the other option is the city finds a way to build it itself. And then we're in the same situation that the county is financially into to build it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's any real satisfactory outcome here. I think we've heard enough about the library for at least a year or two, right? I mean, I'm just bringing up the fact that once you take that space and turn it into an open space, it's going to create some conversation. So I think it would be best for us to get ahead of a community engagement and explain what we're doing, especially if there's environmental remediation or asbestos remediation on the building. It's a good story to tell, because if nothing else, we're getting rid of a hazard, right? So that's my thoughts on it.
All right, Counselor Hartman.
Thank you. I just am out of curiosity, Ashley, if we can we not negotiate, like during this, if we agree or we want to negotiate giving them the tax revenue that we're currently giving them because of this pause? Or the 200,000 for the operations? Has that ever been thought about or discussed, or what are the implications of that?
Those are really significant parts of the negotiation of the primary IGA. So, those are things that Jackie and I spent a significant amount of time on in our key provisions of the IGA. So, this is, I would say, a smaller issue. It's not if and when it's not if the building's going to be done, but it is, the timeline to do the IGA. And so I'm not sure that if we went back and asked for those sort of significant gives in this process, through this process, it would be well received by the county. And as we talked about before, both parties could decide to exit the agreement at any time.
Sure. And then just to put it back on the record, but I feel like it's been answered before. If we pull out of the agreement or, decide no longer to do this, we don't have the funds to really operate a library.
Right. So it would put us back into the status quo. If we're the ones that terminated the IGA, we would not receive the 360 from the county. It would go back to status quo in terms of the tax revenue that we were receiving before this agreement would come back to the city. We would not have to pay the $200,000, but we would also not have a library.
And we would also not be a part of the North Clackamas Library District, is what I'm assuming.
We would be part of the district, but we would only go with the city of Gladstone boundaries, where before we had a larger boundary that we were receiving revenues for.
Got it.
So basically, we would be handed back the operations, the employees, the revenue, but we wouldn't have the $8 million to build a new library.
For sure.
So we would be going backwards in our productivity for trying to accomplish what we're doing.
Right. I appreciate that. I feel like we've heard this and said this. I just want to put it out there one more time, but that's all I have.
Counselor Todd.
I don't think there's anybody up here or in this room that doesn't think that this is difficult and we wish we weren't here. So Administrator Betts, you had said that another option is for Gladstone to try and build their own library. That would be a bond, property tax going up, all of that. I just want to make sure that that's very clear, that that would be the only option. That there's no other way that Gladstone would be able to come up with the difference. We're getting $300,000 if we were to, say no to this and they walked away from the deal. And if we still wanted a library, the other ways to fund it would be.
We would have to go out to the voters and ask to borrow approximately $9 million. And it would be on their property tax statement to pay for that,
Okay.
which would take another 2 or 3 years to accomplish.
Right. Okay. Is there any way that the design build of the library that is, at that, what is it, $8 million mark? Is there anybody to hey, maybe we don't need those kind of chairs? Or, is there any way to pare it down? Are they looking at that?
They already did.
They value engineered it
Okay.
3 times.
Yeah. Okay.
And 6,000 square feet is very, very small to begin with. So I would say the county has done everything they can to scale back that project.
And my only thought is on having an open space on Portland Avenue is, I don't know, is that better than having what that building looks like right now? Because it's pretty horrible if you ask me. So I personally, from my point of view, having it being demolished, getting the work done on it, as opposed to just seeing a flaking 1930s building. I'm not even sure if that's what it is with water damage. I know that's just something to think about. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Counselor Garlington.
So I just have a couple of questions. We have a 12-month pause. However, in April of 2023, we're going to receive some new bids. So who looks at that to make sure that it doesn't say $7,001,001?
Well, the county has control of the project, and I can share they have been a really good partner and they want this project to move forward. So I'm confident with the relationship that I have with the county administrator that they're going to do everything they can to move this project forward. So they would share that information with me or whoever else would want to see that.
Okay, and then the $7 million or less, what does that include? Is that just the build? Does that have anything to do with the people that have been working man hours on, behind the scenes on the projects or anything like that? Or is that just the build?
I think in your packet, we attached
Did I
what the
miss that?
proposal is with the amendment. But that is for the construction of the library. They've gone through the permitting
Okay.
process. They've paid for the designs. That is what it would be to construct the building.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. And then, darn it, I had one more question. Oh, I know. The ARPA funds that we had kind of, we were going to be given, are we looking at losing any of that by extending this 12 months, Ashley? Or Jackie, do you know that?
None of the ARPA funds from the city of Gladstone are allocated to this project, nor do I believe they would qualify. So
No, it's the
Oh,
county's money.
no, the county is still in their ARPA funds, their current funding is secured there. They're not
So
going to
we're not gonna use
reallocate
that?
their
Okay.
ARPA funds.
Okay, because I do know on the other build, there's a question of whether or not they would lose some of the funding based on the delays. So I'm glad to hear that it's just time. We just need time. You can't,
ARPA funds have to be spent by the end of 2024.
okay, good to know. So I'm sad. I'm not gonna lie. We've been at this a long time. People want to see a library built, but I truly believe that our city administrator and the people that work for our administrator are working hard to get this built, and we just have to be patient, unfortunately. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. I just want to add one other item in relation to the demolition. The city has to split the cost with the county. I would rather get it done sooner because our costs go up the longer that we wait as well. So I know there's some nervousness about having a blighted, empty lot there, but having dealt with this site and the contaminated soil, I think we need to get started now to get the abatement out of there, the underground tanks. And we will find that it may not be really an empty lot for that long as we work through the process to rebuild the new library.
All right, I don't have any questions. Anything else? All right, well then I would entertain a motion to approve the IGA or whatever you would like to do.
I'll make the motion that the city of Gladstone agree to the amendment of the IGA with Clackamas County. Does that sound good,
Does that work?
Jackie, or Administrator Betts? Or agree to a pause? It doesn't have it on here.
I know. They
I
didn't give us-
would say that if you made a recommendation to approve amendment number 1 to the library construction and operation intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and the city of Gladstone.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion was made by Counselor Hartman and seconded by Counselor Garlington. Do we have any further discussion, questions or concerns? I don't see anything. Could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, amendment number 1 to the library construction operation IGA has been approved. Thank you for all of the hard work on that one. Thank you for keeping this moving forward. Next is item 10, which is to consider approval of the police bodywork cameras for the Gladstone Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, we're going to talk about body worn cameras. I'm not going to really go over and regurgitate the staff report that's in front of you. Just kind of highlight and summarize some of the events and hopefully be able to answer any questions you have regarding the body worn cameras. Can you guys hear me okay? As you're aware, in 2019, even about a week before I started here, a reporter from Clackamas Review asked me about body worn cameras. That was a topic back in 2019. I gave my response on transparency and my experience with body worn cameras. And it hasn't changed today. Today, we have agencies all over the state of Oregon, including Clackamas County, majority agencies going into body worn cameras. Agencies just moving into them right now and agencies that have had them for a year or so. So it's just not Gladstone just getting started with this. It's a number of agencies are. The biggest issue we had was trying to determine what kind of body worn cameras would fit Gladstone and why, and what we would use. Would it be compatible with our computer systems, with our records keeping? Would it be compatible with the district attorney's office and sharing information? And why do we really want body worn cameras? One is transparency of the event. That means reporting, evidence gathering, behavior, just not the suspect, but the officer's behavior. And hopefully it means minimizing any confrontations, knowing that there's a camera there. Does that mean they're going to stop? Absolutely not. But we'll be able to capture everything. But I want to remind everybody at the same time, as much as I'm talking about the use of body worn cameras, it's just simply a tool. It's an angle of what we see, but it's an important angle. It's not everything, but it's a lot. And I'm hoping I'm making sense when I say that. We did do a body worn camera pilot project, and we went through three different companies. We went through Motorola Solutions, we looked at Axon, and we looked at GTEC. In the staff report, as I said, GTEC, the officers, the testing officers didn't necessarily like the GTEC. They didn't like the way it operates, just wasn't comfortable for them. It was very difficult to get, in our experience at least, to get help from the company if we had issues. But Motorola Solutions and Axon was very, very responsive to the officers. They liked them. Majority of officers already wanted them. They kind of wanted them yesterday. But of course, you always have a couple that change is a little difficult. So there's a couple that aren't real big on body worn cameras, but obviously they're going to wear them. I've outlined a lot of what it will do for us, but I've also outlined who would be wearing body worn cameras if approved. All uniformed police officers would be wearing body worn cameras, code enforcement and detectives under certain circumstances. Draft policy has been developed already. We'll still have to finalize the policy. There's certain restrictions on when you can use body worn cameras, especially during interviews. If you're interviewing like children, it wouldn't be recorded. There's a lot of privacy issues that we have to address in our policy itself of when we can and when we can't use body worn camera. Just because someone asks you that they don't want to be recorded doesn't necessarily mean we have to shut it off if it's an adult. But we got to understand the privacy component also. So that'll all be outlined in the policy. And as you know, all our policies are online. So anybody can have access to our policy and look and see what our policy is once it's been approved. We have actually chosen Motorola Solutions, and I think you can, I attach some documents, a comparison document, along with the overall formal quote from Motorola Solutions. They've extended that quote and guaranteed that quote at least till after tonight. Bring it before council. And as you can tell, there's a significant saving between Motorola and Axon. I'm very familiar with the Axon. We compared apples and apples, so to speak, and it was all the same. We chose Motorola. And so that's what my recommendation is. If approved tonight, we recommend going with Motorola Solutions. We were able to reduce the cost upon the final quote. We've done our due diligence on this through the testing and retesting. Motorola has allowed us actually to keep our testing cameras, going up until we determine which direction we're going to go with the system. So they've been very helpful. They've been very responsive. It's a 5-year subscription fee. We own the equipment, which is what the $25,000 is. We own the equipment. We pay the subscription fee for the use. All upgrades are free. So if there's an upgrade in the technology of the camera, that is automatically uploaded. If there's a no fault warranty with these, as long as I can provide a piece of the equipment that is damaged, they'll replace it under all circumstances. And I think I've got them as low as I can possibly get them with regards to a 5-year subscription. I do recommend that. The cameras, they say, are good for 6 years. In 3 years, we get new cameras. So they refurnish us with new cameras. Each officer gets one. We've included, I think, 1 or 2 spares in there just in case one goes down and we have to send it back. So we'll always have a system on, all the officers will have systems working.
All right.
And I can answer any questions you may have regarding this. I feel very strongly about body worn camera. And I think a lot of our officers do the same. So
right.
I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I think I've outlined how we'd pay for these in their ARPA funding for the first year, the initial setup cost, and then the second year, and then we just build it into our budget for the following 3 years, which is about $10,000 a year.
All right, Counselor Ripley, questions?
I have no questions.
Counselor Alexander.
I think this is a great thing we're talking about, and especially with the ARPA money at our last meeting, we were talking about something tangible. This is something the public can see. This protects the public. It protects your officers. I think it's a great idea. I know you did a lot of work on getting the best price, and it's a great warranty and with the subscription. And wasn't there even an incident of one that you've had that's helped save, or it helped having one on? Wasn't that?
Yes, everybody's familiar with the officer involved shooting. One of the officers there was wearing a testing body worn camera. That was very, very significant to the case, very significant for our defense on any type of civil suit and so on. So the evidence was astounding, and in fact, compliments from the district attorney's office. So grateful that we at least had one there.
Great,
Awesome.
that's it. Thank you.
Counselor Tracy.
So I have to ask, Chief, who controls the data? And I think you know where I'm going with this question. So-
Yes, I think I do. So with regards to the data, once it's uploaded, it can't be tampered with. I mean, it's tracked. It's there's so many digital fingerprints all over that we would know. So officers, it would be locked down. So officers likely would not be able to see, depending on what the incident is, what other officers see. So take a critical incident, for example. We might put in a policy, we might develop stuff where you made the decision, the officer made the decision based on what they saw, what they knew, and that's critical. So they need to look at theirs. They can probably look at theirs, but we don't necessarily need to see someone else's at a different angle. Does that make sense? So a couple other things. So one, they can't tamper with it. Nobody's going to tamper with it. It goes into the cloud. That's what it's designed to do through Motorola. And that belongs to us. There's administrators of the system, and obviously that'd be an evidence tech and supervisors.
I think it needs to be said. So I
Yes.
appreciate
Thank you.
doing that. Thank you. No further questions. Thanks.
Counselor Hartman.
The privacy data question was the one that I had. I am curious if so the data goes into the cloud, we own it. Does Motorola offer sort of a security software that knows that someone's not hacking into the system to obtain this data?
Yes, so they have all that dialed in.
Okay.
So they have the security stuff dialed in. Now, with this comes the redacting portion, redacting equipment or technology. So blurring faces out and et cetera. So we're able to do that for public records requests, but no one else is.
Okay.
And only certain people will.
Right. Those certain people I'm concerned with. I'm kidding. And then I just want to clarify too, I think a lot of my other questions are probably about policy. So where the next step is how we operate this, how public records works, and that's for another day.
Yeah, it's for another day.
Okay.
I can share that with you. I can share that with the council once it comes up, whichever way we determine. But it's primarily going to be standard policy. If you
Sure.
look at Clackamas County's policy or West Lynn's or Oregon City's or even Hillsboro's. It's going to be very, very similar.
Sure,
So-
sure. Yeah, I just want to clear, so we're not wasting time here, but yes,
Yeah.
I would love to learn that when that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to learn some things also.
Nice, awesome. Well, thank you.
Counselor Todd.
Hi there. I just want to clarify that it looks like it's 20 individual units. Is that
Yes.
what we're getting?
Yes.
Okay. And mine was on policy as well, so I guess I won't go into that now. I just had seen in the Clackamas Review that Milwaukee Police Department had
Yes.
just gotten Motorola as well. And they had like sort of line item of sort of the policy listed. And it was very interesting to me because, it's taking into effect that it's a camera facing one direction, that lighting could be different to what the officers actually seen at the time. It was very interesting and very thorough. And I was, so I'm excited to find out what you're going to find out.
Yeah, so it's the same thing and I'm in contact with Milwaukee PD often.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of stuff we'll share and plagiarize and making sure that we're still, accomplishing the same thing. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's going to be different. It's just a point of view.
Okay, thank you.
And plagiarize in a good way, not a
Yes,
bad way.
yes, yes, yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Counselor
No.
Garlington.
Okay, so if in 5 years you decide that Motorola is not the way to go, do you own the data?
Yes.
Okay, and then just so that the world knows, I've never bought my own cell phone. So I'm just gonna ask you this question because I don't quite understand the legalities of it, but you are getting for $25,000 down. That's how we get started with the 20 units that you're buying.
That's correct.
Okay, and it says that you get a warranty on it. But it also says on page 10.3 that new hardware in 36 months.
Yes.
Why this says 5 years and this says 36 months? So does that mean in 36 months that we're gonna have to spend more money?
No, that's our initial purchase. In 36 months, we'll get new hardware, updated hardware. So at no cost.
Okay, but this all says 5 years.
That's
over
5 year,
here.
it's a 5-year warranty
warranty.
on all the equipment. So we get a
So
total of 5
this
years,
Is warranty the whole thing?
not the whole thing.
Okay,
It's part of the overall subscription.
okay, so every 36 months, we'll get your group will get new cameras. And where it says no fault warranty, it's really not 5 years, it's 36 months.
No, it's for 5 years. So
I am
that,
totally lost.
okay, so we'll get the first initial round of the cameras.
Okay,
Okay, and in 36 months, if they give us new cameras, which it says they will, those continue with the same warranty. So for a total of 5 years. So it's not, they just want to make sure they replace equipment and our equipment is operating appropriately. So it's
Okay.
the warranty's over the 5-year subscription,
right.
regardless if they give us new stuff or not, they're always going to be warranted for 5 years. And then after 5 years, we like Motorola, which I anticipate we will, otherwise I wouldn't suggest going into a 5-year contract. But we like Motorola, and then we just pay the subscription fees. We're not caught up in the $25,000 anymore. It's in the 10,000 subscription over and over.
I just have a problem with the 36 months versus the 5-year thing, but I understand it. Okay. I know. It just doesn't align. It's not,
It's just new stuff.
okay. And then that's all then.
Can we just go back to that, Chief, so that we're
Yes.
clear on it? So I'm gonna guess that what we're doing is the technology is fairly cheap. What you're doing is you're building the subscription. They have to go out on an extended warranty for the equipment because it is equipment. So to Counselor Garlington, I think what we're saying here is you're telling us it's gonna be revolving as long as we stay in this relationship. Technology is not the most expensive part here. I'm gonna guess data storage and transfer is gonna be the most expensive part. So I think it makes sense that it would be on a 5-year warranty because then you're beyond you're at your subscription date you can just re-up it and then we're getting new equipment every 3 years.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's big money.
And to be completely transparent, we brought this to the city council as a 5-year package because it exceeds my spending authority. We could have just spent $25,000 and bought it for the first year, but we want the community to understand the 5-year package that we are entering into for this equipment.
And I understand that completely. I just, the 36 months versus the 5 years and making sure that you get new equipment and somebody's not holding that year and a half old over your head. That, you know, that wouldn't surprise me with any company these days, but I'm going to trust you.
Thank you.
Counselor Tracy. You have something?
It's not much different than a radio contract.
That's correct.
So, I mean, it's Motorola's a radio company. They
Yes.
do this all the time. You buy the subscription. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Counselor Hartman.
And just want to clarify, so the $25,000 ARPA funds are going towards this 25,640, is that right?
That's correct.
And we're not planning on using any more ARPA funds to cover year 2 or 3? Or maybe, or what's on the table, or 2?
Year 2.
Oh, this is year, okay. But we're not planning on using any more, or we are potentially?
No, after
Oh,
that.
it's budgeted, it's
built in at
budgeted.
the-
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other question?
And by the time this 5-year subscription is done, your library will have been open for 3 years.
And we'll catch it all on camera.
All right, well, I would entertain a motion then to move forward with purchasing the body cameras.
I'll make a motion that Gladstone purchase the Motorola equipment to include the subscription fees.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Counselor Alexander and seconded by Counselor Todd. Do we have any further discussion, questions, or concerns? Nope, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, so move forward and get your cameras.
Thank you.
All right, next is item 11, to consider directing staff to prepare an ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacture of psilocybin products in Gladstone and refer the question to the voters at the November election. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I want to be clear that tonight we're not asking your opinion on how you feel about whether or not we should have these psilocybin facilities in. It's already been approved by the state. They're in the process right now of licensing them. The Oregon Health Authority has begun the rulemaking process. Chief Schmerber and I are very green with this, as is other cities, because the Oregon Health Authority has not done their final rulemaking. This really is a process issue as to whether or not you want to ban these in Gladstone. If you do, you have to refer it to the November ballot and let the voters decide in Gladstone. When we went through this process, when marijuana was legalized, there's only certain areas where we could have manufacturing facilities. And I believe there was a couple of locations on 82nd because they have to be in limited light industrial areas. So these facilities that we're talking about tonight, they can't be within 1,000 foot of a school. They can't be in residential or commercial zones. We wanted to bring this to your attention because our city attorney's office prepared a brief for the League of Oregon Cities to say, if you have a strong desire to not have these in your community, in August, which is like next month, you must refer this to the November ballot. So we're simply trying to get your input tonight on whether or not you want us to bring back an ordinance next month that refers this to the November ballot, or if you would like us to wait until 2023 after the Oregon Health Authority has put their licensing and rulemaking into place, come back to you to say how this may or may not affect Gladstone and consider it on the November 2023 ballot. That's really the conversation that we need for you tonight. If you want to ban it and you want to ban it now, then we've got to do that. If you're okay of getting more information to understand how this might lay out in Gladstone, then our recommendation is that you wait until November of 2023 to consider referring this to the ballot.
Okay, I have a question for Chief Schmerber. So when we decided to limit the marijuana stores in Gladstone to the L1, which there's one on 82nd where the Iron Tribe, that little office building, that's an L1. And the other one is across the street from Burgerville. Is that correct? And I think it's the boat place. So those are our L1s. One of them, I think, has a marijuana thing upstairs, the one on 82nd, but obviously the boat doesn't. Have we had any issues?
Not to my knowledge,
Okay, and we've had it in place for 5 years? No,
since I've been
8
here.
years.
Well, it's been here since I've been here, so.
Yeah, because we
It's
did it when
about
I was on
5.
planning.
And we do
Yeah,
collect
it was a
revenue
while.
from the marijuana, which you won't with the mushroom facilities for that.
Oh, that will also be income generating.
No, there
It
will
will
be
not
no
be.
revenue.
Okay. All right, so Counselor Ripley.
Mayor,
Yes.
Ashley has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the Zoom things. Yes.
So just one point to make. So because of how the law is written, it is like marijuana, where if you're going to refer it to the voters, it has to be in a general election, and general elections occur in even number
Oh,
years.
2024.
2024. That's it.
Okay, that's the difference then. If you don't refer it this November, we wait until 2024. So now you're just trying to understand the potential risk and locations of where it could be in Gladstone. We're saying that there's not that many areas where it could be, but we will do what the majority of the council wants. That's the discussion that's before you tonight.
Counselor Ripley.
I think waiting it would probably be the best idea personally. There's, whether you ban it or don't ban it, you will not ban it. If you ban it, it's going to affect some people in a negative way because there's medical uses for it. If you don't ban it, you're going to run into the same thing like we have with fentanyl right now. And years ago, we had morphine at the fire station, then we had morphine and fentanyl worked a lot better on some people. And next thing you know, that's like the number one way to overdose right now is on fentanyl. So I don't know if putting stuff out and making it that accessible is a good thing, but I wouldn't want to see the medical uses of it hindered.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Siri's listening in.
Now Siri's gonna search for you.
So I think wait until they have more rulemaking and more stuff in place. At least you'd know what is going on, not jumping the gun on it.
All right, Counselor Alexander.
Yeah, I agree with that. I already had a circle for that. Choose to do nothing because we get more information. And even if we don't ban it, or they vote to ban it or not ban it, like you say, the locations, we have no locations to put them, even if it was okay. So I would wait till we had all the information we need to make a better, well-informed decision. So I choose to do nothing.
Counselor Tracy.
I'm going to agree with the other two counselors. I think these are actually therapeutic centers. I don't think they're going to take the same kind of storefront that we see with the cannabis stores. My understanding is that they're therapeutic centers or manufacturing centers. To your point, Mayor, there's no room really because we've got two sites. One sells boats, the other one sells marijuana. So I don't see a harm in waiting. I don't think anybody's just banging on the Gladstone gates to come in and set up a psilocybin therapeutic center. I'm good with waiting.
Counselor Hartman.
You never know. Similar to Counselor Tracy, my understanding was that the psilocybin centers will not operate the same way. I don't know if Ashley can answer this or Administrator Buzz, as the same way as dispensaries, that it is licensed medical providers, you're going for treatment, depression, anxiety, all of the things that they cure.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We were able to talk to City Attorney Jacobs before he went on vacation, and Ashley can chime in. We're learning a lot about the regulations, and you actually have to check yourself in
Right.
to a treatment facility and stay for a duration of time. And all of that hasn't come out with the state yet.
Right.
But yes, you are correct. You can't just like go someplace, buy it, take it and leave.
Sure.
These are service treatment licensed facilities that they will be at.
Okay, thank you for that. I think, and I just wanted to share too, with anyone who doesn't know, starting tomorrow for the next 3 days, the county and the state are having info sessions on Zoom. All of these questions, policy, rulemaking, all of those things are happening in the next 3 days. But I do agree with everyone else that we should just wait.
Counselor Todd.
I just want to know where the statute is. I remember very specifically with the marijuana and the dispensaries that, you know, the voters had decided that they were okay in the L1 areas. And I was just wondering, so we're for sure that the psilocybin is going to be in the same place, right? That's because that seems odd for a medical setting to be in light industrial to me.
No, and to be clear, that is one of the zoning regulations that we aren't finding yet, and neither is Clackamas County. There's so much information coming out right now that nobody's really had time to narrow that in, because a treatment facility would be a different zone than the industrial.
Right. That's why it
Correct.
sounded odd to me that that wouldn't be where I would see somebody would check themselves in for several days for some sort of treatment, you know, next to the hot tub place on 82nd Drive. I don't know.
Well, they're
So-
looking at it from the manufacturing standpoint.
More than the
and that
service.
forces it into an L1.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think that we don't have enough information to put this on a ballot myself. Thank you.
Counselor Garlington.
My question is for Ashley. I was just wondering if any other cities have jumped out there and said, we're going to get it on the ballot, or or we're not going to do anything. Do you have a sense on that?
So I don't have a sense on that. So this is the first city council meeting that I have been to that has discussed it, actually. However, you know, I receive about 5 or 6 emails on the Oregon City Attorney listserv each day about it. So I think cities are all just going through the process exactly like Gladstone is now. And I think some of the issues that you're talking about is just it's very new. And we've gone through the marijuana, so we understand the process, but it's how are these service centers different and what kind of risk do they pose? So that's a long-winded answer to say everybody's figuring it out right now.
Okay, thank you. I'm in agreement with everyone that we just give it time. Let's see what happens. Just give it time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, let's see how this goes. But I have a question is, if we relook at this in 2 years, is it going to go through planning commission like the marijuana did, or a completely different process?
You mean if a facility wanted to be in Gladstone, there'd probably be design review, land
Okay.
use application.
So there's going to be some steps in place.
Yeah, I'll let Ashley.
Yeah, so if we look at it again in 2 years, the issue would be referring it to the ballot for a prohibition. At any time, you can implement time, place, and manner regulations, and that would go through the land use process. As long as those aren't an effective prohibition, they would be fine. So let's say the rules come out, we learn more about it, and we say, okay, we don't necessarily want to ban it, but we would like to put in some time, place, and manner regulations. You can start the land use process then.
Okay, good. So I just want to make sure that way there's checks and balances as it moves forward.
Yes.
Okay. Natalie, be prepared. All right, so is that all you need from us on this one?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you
direction?
very much.
All right, next item is appointment to the Traffic Safety Commission. And we received a new resignation today. And so that brings it up to 3 vacancies on the Traffic Safety Commission. All right, staff.
Thank you. In your packet, you have an application from Alexandra Hernandez that would like to be on the Traffic Safety Commission. This would be for replacing a term that expires 12/31 of 2024. As the mayor indicated, you have currently now 3 openings after today's resignation. And so we would just ask that the city council appoint Alexandra Hernandez.
All right, so before we do a roll call vote, Counselor Ripley, any questions?
I have no questions.
Counselor Alexander,
None at all, thanks.
Counselor Tracy,
No questions, thanks.
Counselor Hartman,
No questions.
Counselor Todd,
I just wanted to know how many do we have on the board? Should, if it was fully filled, is
7.
it 7? Okay, thank you.
Counselor Garlington.
No questions.
All right, how do you want to do this? It's only one person. Do you want to just do a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay,
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Hartman. Aye. Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
yes, so I would like to welcome Alexandra Hernandez to our Traffic Safety Committee. Hopefully it's a foot in the door for a whole lot of other committees that she wants to be involved with. All right, so do we have, that's it for our regular agenda? Do we have any business carried forward?
Just one item in your packet as a follow-up to the work session that we had with your board committee commissions a couple of months ago is we did put in a tentative outline of trying to align they're no longer annual work plans. They're going to be 2-year plans with the committees, commissions, and boards to align that with the city council goal-setting process and the next biennium budget. So all of those are going to come into a line. And for those that are interested in running for a city council position, you will see some commitments in January and February that we are working on. So that is just for the council to have, subject to change, but hopefully not too much. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, do we have any business from the audience?
No, we did not receive any requests to speak.
All right, so business from the council. We will start with Counselor Ripley.
I don't have anything except for drink water.
Yeah.
Actually, being in construction for over 30 years, I've drinking water all over the place. From pretty much everyone in Oregon drinking water, and Gladstone has the best tasting water out of anybody else. I think, especially the cities get their stuff out of wells. That stuff's horrible.
Counselor Alexander.
I just want to say great meeting, great questions, great concerns addressed. So thank you.
All right, Counselor Tracy.
Well, piggybacking on Councilor Ripley's water, the water plant's in good shape. We've got budgets together pretty tight. Reserves are good. Water outlook looks really good. The river obviously was up high. Doing a sand filter replacement and some R&R on the plant. And so far, things have been really good this year. I've got to commend the plant, the new staff, the general manager, and everyone who runs that plant, the new techs. They've done a fantastic job and one of the tightest budgets I've ever seen. So you're correct, Councilor Ripley. We do have good water. Yeah. Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, Counselor Hartman.
I just wanted to say and give a shout out to Maddie and that everyone is so excited that she is back at Max Patterson. As someone who lives kitty corner to it, is so amazing to see the splash pad open and to see everyone laughing and enjoying themselves. And she's just a great addition to have there on those days. And the kids just love them. So that was all. Thank you.
All right, Counselor Todd.
I just hope everybody will be at the festival coming up the first weekend in August. Friday movie at the park, Saturday my beloved parade, and then Sunday is car show. So if you want to be involved, let me know.
All right, Counselor Garlington.
I just want to give a shout out to our police force and our fire department for putting on a fabulous 4th of July picnic. There was a lot of people there. That was fun to talk to people. The Historical Society was there. It just seemed like everybody was having a good time. And what was really great to me is it was not just people that happened to be at the park. People came to the park to specifically be a part of this picnic. And that to me was really great to see. And thank you to all of you for cooking and handing out. Mayor Stemple, your cookies. All three of them were really good. I can just honestly say that.
John took more than 3, didn't you, John?
So I just give a big shout out to you all for that, because it was just really awesome to see. And I think a lot of people had a really bright, happy 4th of July because of you. So I commend you all. Thank you.
I think it shocked Clackamas Fire that it was so well attended and was so much fun. Yeah, it was a really good event. Thank you very much. All right, the food pantry is open from 3 to 5:30 on Thursdays. I'd like to thank all of the people at Hillside Christian Fellowship Church. They are awesome. They're not charging us anything. The building, the utilities, the maintenance, everything they're supplying. As I've said before, the number of folks we're serving grows every week. We currently need more volunteers, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. You can only volunteer once a month or once a week, whatever you're available for. And we need donations. Right now, we need pasta, spaghetti sauce, cereal, and snacks. But anything you can give would be appreciated. If you want to donate, I'm there Wednesdays 2 to 3:30, and we're open to the public 3 to 6 on Thursdays, so just swing by. I attended the GEMS meeting. They discussed the senior center and the resource center that will be in place when an emergency occurs. We went over the very basic roles of the elected officials and what the hierarchy looks like during an incident. We need to get more people signed up for Flashpoint so that the real information is pushed out. And apparently they're going to have a booth at the community festival to sign people up. The Historical Society meeting started with a historian's report and a book that she discovered called 1947 Historic Homes of Clackamas County. And we happen to have a couple in that book. There are 30 houses highlighted, and apparently the advertising in the back is crazy amazing. We received brochures for the 1st and 2nd annual Gladstone 4th of July picnic. So cool, from the Gladstone Mercantile. They gave them to us. We talked about Myrta Bell Swallow, who taught piano lessons in Bev Anslow's basement for 50 years. The granddaughters of Harvey Cross have 2 beautiful antique rocking chairs that belong to his family that they're wanting to donate to us, but we need to find a secure place to put our stuff. Hint, hint. It's all spread out in people's garages and basements. And then we have a historic calendar for sale as a fundraiser, and we're going to have those at the community festival. Clackamas County Coordinating Committee is really focusing on the state highway plan and tolling. I had 2 meetings just yesterday to craft a letter. We're asking for a 60-day extension on public comment because we do not feel that they really listened to the public comments that they have received. So we want more time to make it more forceful. So that was going out today, or it might be going out tomorrow. Hopefully it went out today. The Parks and Rec meeting last night went over the preferred conceptual plan for Meldrum Bar Park. The outstanding issue was where to put the off-leash dog park, and the board decided to put it up in the open area on the left at the top of the hill. The most popular items wanted to be completed per the survey was an event space, dog park, and paths. And they also were discussing standardizing amenities at the parks, the benches, the picnic tables, and the garbage receptacles. And I think they're going to come to that decision next month. Our next meetings are July 26th at 5:30. That's going to be a council work session here at City Hall. And August 9th at 6:30 will be our next regular city council meeting. So that's it. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
One more thing I gotta think.
Oh, yep.
Council Ripley came across the 1960 original drawings of our library,
Yeah,
and they're really neat.
the
Got
historical
my house
society. Oh,
right next
good.
to The historical society, and
Perfect.
anybody got a guess how much it cost to build?
$12,000.
30,000.
30, okay. Yeah. All right. So a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Counselor Garlington and seconded by Counselor Alexander to adjourn. Any questions or concerns? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Hartman.
Aye.
Counselor Todd,
Aye.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Mayor Sniffle.
Yes, meeting's adjourned at 7:55 PM.